This is Boxing Talk 8576. I want to take y'all back and talk about some old fighters. You know what I'm saying? Some of the fighters that I'm gonna be doing this from time to time. Some of the fighters that paved the way for the fighters of today. Boxing has a rich tradition. It goes back over 100 years. Um, Boxing didn't just start 20 years ago. I just want to talk about this and give the casual fans a little knowledge about other, past fighters and past matches. Different fighters, and their legacies. Today I want to talk about two fighters. I'm going to talk about Mike Tyson and Sonny Liston. Very similar career paths. Uh, both Mike Tyson and Sonny Liston had very tumultuous adolescence. They were both they grew up doing virtually, having the same, you know, uh, childhood. Sonny Liston, his father used to beat on him. He left. His mother left him with a abusive father. Mike Tyson, his father wasn't there. His mom was a hooker, so he didn't have the best role model growing up. Neither did Sonny Liston. Um, Mike Tyson, he used to rob and steal. Sonny Liston used to rob and steal, so they've had similar career paths outside of the ring, the way they were brought up. Um, Sonny Liston, he befriended this father um, after he was in so much trouble. This father, seeing that he was a troubled child and tried to help him. Uh, he I guess trying to get Sonny Liston off the streets, recommend him to his friend. His friend was a boxing trainer, so Sonny Liston started boxing. He started training. The guy seen that Sonny Liston had raw power, so he seen that he had potential. Mike Tyson, he met Customato when he was 14. Customato seeing that he had raw power, just like Sonny Liston had raw power, and he just wanted to put the polish on Mike Tyson. So he started training Mike Tyson, molding Mike Tyson, showing Mike Tyson old films, of Jack Dempsey, Gene Tunney, Rocky Marciano, very menacing, strong guys with power, crushing power. And every day, every night when Mike Tyson will lay down, either when he was going to bed, he would be right there telling Mike Tyson, "Remember what I taught you today? Remember how I showed you how to do this?" He was you know putting that muscle memory in Tyson. Because boxing or anything you want to be good at is it's about muscle memory. It's about being able to do it without thinking. And Mike Tyson had this pickable style, to where he put his hands up and he moves his head, so you can't. He's slipping the jab, slipping the punches, and he can come in with very good leverage, go to the body, finish you off to the head. Mike Tyson was a very good technical fighter. He set punches up. A lot of people just seen him as being a knockout puncher, but he actually set punches up. He set his power up very well. He went to the body very well. Sonny Liston, he had a reputation for breaking ribs and sparring. His sparring partners had to wear rib protectors because he broke ribs on a regular basis. So he was a very strong puncher. He beat um, Floyd Patterson for the heavyweight championship of the world. This was built good versus evil because no one liked Sonny Liston. Everyone liked um, Floyd Patterson because he was a nice guy, nice good guy, and they just wanted the championship of the world to be, I guess, represented in a in a way of, I guess, They didn't want Sonny Liston having it because they thought he was a bad guy, which, he had a very troubled past, so no one liked him. But he came in. Customato was actually his trainer, Floyd Patterson trainer at this time. He didn't want Floyd Patterson to fight Sonny Liston because he told Floyd Patterson he don't think he can beat Sonny Liston. So, but the president at that time wanted them to fight. So Floyd Patterson said, "I have to fight him. The president wants us to fight." He didn't want to let the president down, I guess. So he went in there with the courage, the will. But Sonny Liston was too powerful for him. He knocked him out. He became the heavyweight champion of the world. So the bad guy won, and people were not happy. So he was not a celebrated champion. He did not get the respect that he wanted. He thought once he became champion he was going to get respect, but he still didn't. Mike Tyson beat Trevor Berbick, knocked him out to become the youngest heavyweight champion of all times, which Customato was telling the world that he will be the youngest heavyweight champion, but Customato did not get to see it because he died a year before Tyson won the championship. But Tyson was actually loved when he won a championship because Tyson, I used to see him in commercials. He used to be in Coca-Cola commercials. People loved Tyson because Tyson had this nice, personality. He was very menacing in the ring, but outside of the ring, he was a nice person. This is before, he got with Don King. After Customato died, he signed with Don King. Don King swooped in and seen the opportunity. Okay, let me sweep up this meal ticket. And he started, changing inside the ring and outside the ring. Inside the ring, he started changing because he stopped being a technical fighter that sets up his punches. He just became a head hunter. Tyson was a head hunter. Before that, he was a very technical fighter with the pickaboo style that set up his punches, went to the body very, very well. He still went to the body, but he stopped setting up his power shots. He started just doing a lot of head hunting. And he ended up marrying actress Robin Givens. That really wasn't a great decision. She just wanted to be around him because he was Mike Tyson. She wanted his money. She was very conniving. Mike Tyson just seen her as a Barbie doll, someone that that he could not see himself getting when he was younger. So I guess he fell for it. She seen that he wasn't that that clever, that smart. She was very smart. And Sonny Liston, after he beat Floyd Patterson, he fought Floyd Patterson in a rematch and knocked him out in the first round. So he had no one to fight him. And then there was this loudmouth kid by the name of Cassius Clay, known as Muhammad Ali now today. But people thought that he was going to knock Cassius Clay out in 1 or 2 rounds. Cassius Clay, he was a loudmouth, braggadocious guy, very, very loud. And if it's one thing that Sonny Liston was scared of, and that was crazy people. He always said he don't know what a crazy person to do, so he don't want to be around crazy people. So Cassius Clay, he was that model of he was making Sonny Liston thinking that he was crazy, showing up at Sonny Liston house on his lawn saying, "Come out here, you big ugly bear. You cannot be the heavyweight champion of the world. Heavyweight champion of the world got to be pretty like me." So he just thought he was crazy, And they got into the fight, and Sonny Liston like, okay, when we get into the fight, I'm gonna shut this young kid up. He got into the fight, and he seen that Muhammad Ali was too fast for him. He was just getting dominated in the fight. The crowd was stunned. Everybody was stunned. And then his trainer, I guess, put something on his shoulder or something. He rubbed it in Cassius Clay's eye, and he went back to the corner because he said he couldn't see. And Angelo Dundee, the great trainer Angelo Dundee, he rinsed his eyes out. He said, "Calm down, calm down." So he rinsed his eyes out. He went back out there in the 6th round, and his vision started coming back. Then he started whooping on Sonny Liston again, and Sonny Liston ended up quitting on his stool due to a shoulder injury. That's what he said. He said he had a shoulder injury, and a lot of He got flack. You know, a lot of people was like, "You gonna give up the biggest prize in the world off a shoulder injury? You got to be kidding me." They never let him live that down. His pride was hurt. You know, people didn't want him to be champion anyway. But Mike Tyson, he ended up fighting Buster Douglas, James Buster Douglas. This was supposed to have been, a tune-up fight before he fought Evander Holyfield. He went into this fight not taking it serious. He was partying a lot, drinking a lot, messing with the women over there in Tokyo. Um, uh, James Buster Douglas was, a journeyman fighter. They said he had good, boxing ability, but he never lived up to his potential. He was big, he was tall, rangy, good jab, decent power, uh, decent footwork. His mom ended up dying before the fight, so he was very driven and determined to win the fight because he told his mom he will beat Mike Tyson. So it was like the perfect storm. Mike Tyson actually got dropped in sparring. You can go see that on YouTube. He got dropped in sparring. Um, you can you can see that Tyson was on a downward road spiral with all of his partying and not dedicating himself to the sport. He got into the fight. Tyson came out lethargic. James Buster Douglas came out from the get go, just giving it to Mike Tyson, beating him to the punch, out punching him, out manning him. Um, he didn't let Tyson get off. He didn't let he every time Tyson came a little bit close, he hit him with the right hand. He would pop the jab out there. Tyson finally got in and got to him in the seventh round, knocked Buster Douglas down, but it really wasn't. It was like a flash knockdown. He really wasn't hurt. Tyson didn't get the all what he wanted to get into the punch, and Buster Douglas ended up getting up. And when he got up, it was the same thing. He started humming Mike Tyson, beating him to the punch, outmanning him. You know, uh, it's like he couldn't miss Tyson. He said he was in the zone that night, but he ended up knocking Mike Tyson out in the 10th round, if I'm not mistaken. So that began Tyson's downward spiral. He no longer had the facade of unbeatable. That was gone. And once that was gone, Tyson confidence was gone because Tyson already had a confidence problem. See, Customato built the confidence in him and the belief in him that he can be something, and Customato wasn't there anymore, so he had no one to build him up again. So it was like the undisputed champion that can't be beat can be beat, and he didn't have the mental capacity to deal with that. Sonny Liston, after his loss with by Cassius Clay, now he was known as Muhammad Ali. By the time the second fight came, if I'm not mistaken, um, Sonny Liston begged for the fight. He said he trained for this fight harder than he trained in any other fight, but the fight was postponed for 5 or 6 weeks. And Sonny Liston, I don't know, people don't know how old he was. So they say his birth certificate was, I guess they thought he was like 36, but they say he could be 40 or whatever. They didn't know how old he was, but they said that having to go to two training camps, having to a fighter reaches a peak, and then once they reach a peak, you can't go no further than there. And then he had to come down, and then he had to reach his peak again. They said that kind of you know took a toll on his body. But this second fight was controversy because it was known as the Phantom Punch. They say Muhammad Ali did not really hit him that hard, and Sonny Liston went down. Sonny Liston was known to run around with the mob, being in cahoots with the mob. They say that Sonny Liston took a dive. So that's what people say. Sonny Liston took a dive. And in the second fight, um, after his fight with Muhammad Ali, he went right down to the a downward spiral to the dark side. He started hanging out with the mob. He was like a not like a hitman as far as killing people with, but if someone needed their legs broke or beat up, they said Sonny Liston to do it. So he was no longer boxing on a regular. So he went and just went further into doing the wrong thing. Mike Tyson was convicted of sexual assault on a young woman. Um, he spent 4 years in jail. Then he got out. He became a Muslim while he was incarcerated. He came out. They had Don King set him up on this fight presser tours, to quote unquote to get Mike Tyson back on top. Mike Tyson had 5 fights against journeyman. They easily knocked out or handled very easily. He knocked all of them out, and then he fought Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield was known as a warrior. He had at this point Evander Holyfield had 3 tough fights with Riddick Bowe. So they thought we caught him at the right time. But Evander Holyfield came in, was dominating the fight, out punching Mike Tyson, out manning Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, he was not scared of Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson could not intimidate Evander Holyfield, and he knew that. He knew that he could not win the fight by like the 6th round. He bit Evander Holyfield's ear, like bit a chunk of it off. That was crazy, man. I remember I lost money on that, because we were betting rounds, and I lost money because he bit the man's ear. But he spit it out in the crowd, and the referee surprisingly let the man go. It's crazy how referees stop fights now. They let this man go with biting somebody's ear. It's stunning. And then he let it continue, and then Tyson bit the other ear. What Tyson was trying to say is, hey, I don't want no more of this. I can't beat this man. This man is beating the crap out of me. I need a way out. So he found a way out. Then they fought. They had a rematch. I think a year later they had a rematch. Evander Holyfield knocked him out this time. Just beat him to a pulp again. Knocked him out. So Tyson, that whole, I guess, people was making excuses for him, saying him being in jail eroded his skills, which, it was true. Some of that's true, but this goes back to the Buster Douglas fight. His confidence was gone. His confidence wasn't there. He was not fighting the same as he fought when he was with Cus D'Amato, setting up his power punches. He just became a headhunter. And if you a headhunter, you're easy. I don't care if you got power. You're easy to fight. You know, against a person that can take your punch and someone is, using technical skills against you. Sonny Liston got back in the ring on and off. He lost to one of his sparring partners. The guy knocked him out. He fought Chuck Wepner. He won that fight. He won that fight because he beat the crap out of Chuck Wepner. I guess the mob wanted him to take a dive in that fight, and he didn't take a dive in that fight, from what I read and understand of doing some research. That they wanted him to take a dive, he didn't want to take a dive. But Sonny Liston died at the age of 38. No one knows really how he died. There's speculation that he had a drug overdose, that the mob killed him. But he had a very, very troubled life, and he ran with the wrong crowd for too long, and it caught up with him. Mike Tyson, surprisingly, a lot of people thought Mike Tyson would be dead by now, but Mike Tyson turned his life around. He actually was in a couple movies, The Hangover. Mike Tyson is doing, kind of good for himself. He had a stage, his stage thing in New York where he talked about his life, his boxing career. He he's a promoter now, so he promotes fights. So Tyson is always a beloved figure. He's a big figure in the sport of boxing. People know Mike Tyson worldwide. Tyson is still big right now today, but he's more humble. He got better people around him. He got away from Don King. Actually sued Don King for $100 million. So he got away from Don King and got away from a lot of that. Hanging on people, leeching off of them. But these are two fighters that have very similar paths inside and outside of the ring. Both, Hall of Fame heavyweight champions of their era. They both dominated, in the time that they were champions and they were coming up. So this is Boxing Talk 8576. I'm out.